Isaiah chapter 7. So we're doing select portions out of Isaiah. We're not the whole book, but we're going to be in it for a little bit yet, at least through the end of the year, probably into next year some too. And Isaiah 7 is well known because of a particular verse that we'll get to momentarily. It is not a real long chapter, and so I'm going to read it for you. Isaiah chapter 7. Now it came about in the days of Ahaz, the son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah, that Rezin, the king of Aram, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, went up to Jerusalem to wage war against it, but could not conquer it. When it was reported to the house of David, saying, the Arameans have camped in Ephraim, his heart and the hearts of his people shook as the trees of the forest shake with the wind. Then the Lord said to Isaiah, go out now to meet Ahaz, you and your son Shear-Jashub, at the end of the conduit of the upper pool on the highway to the fuller's field, and say to him, take care and be calm, have no fear, and do not be faint-hearted, because of these two stubs of smoldering firebrands, on account of the fierce anger of Rezin and Aram and the son of Remaliah. Because Aram with Ephraim and the son of Remaliah has planned evil against you, saying, let us go up against Judah and terrorize it, and make for ourselves a breach in its walls, and set up the son of Tabeel as king in the midst of it. Thus says the Lord God, it shall not stand, nor shall it come to pass. For the head of Aram is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Rezin. Now within another 65 years Ephraim will be shattered, so that it is no longer a people. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is the son of Remaliah. If you will not believe, you surely shall not last. Then the Lord spoke again to Ahaz, saying, ask a sign for yourself from the Lord your God, make it deep as Sheol or high as heaven. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, nor will I test the Lord. Then he said, listen now, O house of David, is it too slight a thing for you to try the patience of men, that you will try the patience of my God as well? Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, a virgin will be with child, and bear a son, and she will call his name Emmanuel. He will eat curds and honey at the time he knows enough to refuse evil and choose good. For before the boy will know enough to refuse evil and choose good, the land whose two kings you dread will be forsaken. The Lord will bring on you, on your people, and on your father's house such days as have never come since the day that Ephraim separated from Judah, the king of Assyria. In that day the Lord will whistle for the fly that is in the remotest part of the rivers of Egypt, and for the bee that is in the land of Assyria. They will all come and settle in the steep ravines, on the ledges of the cliffs, on all the thorn bushes, and on all the watering places. In that day the Lord will shave with a razor, hired from regions beyond the Euphrates, that is, with the king of Assyria, the head and the hair of the legs, and will also remove the beard. Now in that day a man may keep alive a heifer and a pair of sheep, and because of the abundance of the milk produced, he will eat curds, for everyone that is left within the land will eat curds and honey. And it will come about in that day that every place where there used to be 1,000 vines, valued at 1,000 shekels of silver, will become briars and thorns. People will come there with bows and arrows, because all the land will be briars and thorns. As for all the hills which used to be cultivated with the hoe, you will not go there for fear of briars and thorns, but they will become a place for pasturing oxen and for sheep to trample. Well, here is Isaiah sent by God to talk to Ahaz, who's the grandson of Uzziah, one of the great kings of Judah. And the year is 734 BC. In about 13 years, the northern kingdom of Israel is going to cease to exist. 721 BC, the Assyrians are going to level that whole territory and eradicate the land. There's actually a firm date in here, down in verse 8. I don't know if you saw that. 65 years. That seems to be a reference to the king of Assyria, Esarhaddon, at that time, 65 years from this prophecy, is going to bring in, he's going to import pagan, heathen Gentiles from all over the Middle East and drop them into the land that used to be Israel. And that will, that'll be kind of the end of Israel as a nation. So a couple of things are going on here. One is that Ahaz has gotten word that two nations that he fears, one is the northern kingdom, Israel, and another is Aram. Aram would be, the geography of Aram would be essentially the same as Syria today. Those two nations have gotten together. They formed an alliance, and they're coming down out of the north, and they're coming against Jerusalem. And those two armies are on the move toward him, and he and the whole kingdom of Judah are scared witless. They're terrified. And so in verse 3, the Lord says to Isaiah, I want you to go talk to Ahaz, bring your son Shear-Jashub. So that would be Isaiah's oldest son, his firstborn. And there's going to be a reference to a second son in this chapter whose name is going to be Emmanuel. And then if you look in chapter 8, let's see, there's going to be a third son whose name is even more interesting. It's in 8:3. Maher Shalal Hashbaz. What a great name. I wonder if that ever got shortened to Baz or something, yeah. It means swift is the booty, speedy is the prey. All these names have meaning. And the name of the first boy, Shear-Jashub, is a remnant will return. Emmanuel, as you know, means God with us. And then this other, swift is the booty, speedy is the prey. There's meaning in the names of his kids. And Isaiah is supposed to go meet the king, Ahaz, with his boy, a young boy, and talk to him. And back in 7 and verse 4, here's what you're supposed to say to him. Take care and be calm, have no fear, and do not be faint-hearted, because of these two stubs of smoldering firebrands, on account of the fierce anger of Rezin and the country of Aram, and the son of Remaliah, that's the king of the northern kingdom. So these two kingdoms, these two armies, are out to get Ahaz and Jerusalem and the southern kingdom of Judah. And Isaiah's word is, be calm, don't be afraid. In fact, he's supposed to call these two nations stubs of smoldering firebrands. So when you start a wood fire, you guys have got a fire going. Well, maybe not today, but I started a fire in the barn last week because it was 49 degrees in the barn, and I thought, okay. Well, when the fire's almost out, and some twigs and things have gone down to just a little red glow, but it's almost gone. That's the language that God tells Isaiah to use, stubs of firebrands. They're smoldering, they're still red, but they're about to go out. Now, from Ahaz's perspective, from the perspective of the southern kingdom, these two armies are a lethal threat. They are very, very dangerous. They're an existential threat. But God says through Isaiah, tell Ahaz, be calm, don't be afraid. Don't get uptight, don't do anything rash, because I've got this in hand. So there's another passage that relates to this. Keep your finger here, but flip over to Psalm 2 real quick like. Psalm 2, you'll recognize it right away. And Psalm 2 in the first couple of verses. Why are the nations in an uproar and the peoples devising a vain thing? The kings of the earth take their stand and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us tear their fetters apart and cast away their cords from us. Fallen humanity has been rebelling against God since Adam and Eve. And nations getting together is almost always a really bad thing. when they coalesce around an idea, it's almost always wickedness. And does God up in heaven say, oh no, something has broken loose, I've lost control, somebody man the tiller, get on the oars, this is terrible? What does it say in verse 4? He who sits in the heavens laughs, the Lord scoffs at them. Somebody give us an application to October 23rd, 2024. Yeah. Special ops forces from North Korea going into Russia. What else? Something closer to home, maybe. The Democrats and the Republicans, and I guess there's still a Green Party somewhere, and the Independents, and they are all up in arms and hurling at least vitriolic, bitter ads at each other, not quite to the point of spears. But should we, God's people, be all in a turmoil and all in a tizzy? Should we say, oh, this is terrible, things are out of hand, and it's gonna be a bloodbath, and what should be our response? God has always been in control. He's still in control now. Our trust is in him. Our confidence is in him. So back in Isaiah 7, in verse 9, because a ram, this is still Isaiah talking to Ahaz the king, because a ram with Ephraim and the son of Remaliah has planned evil against you, saying, let us go up against Judah, terrorize it. And here's what God says in verse 7. Thus says the Lord, it shall not stand, nor shall it come to pass. God says, I'm not going to allow that to happen. It is not Jerusalem's time to fall. The city of Jerusalem is protected. The people of Judah are still in my hand, and it's okay. This is not going to occur. Down in verse 8, he says, God says to Ahaz, I know exactly who's in charge in Aram. I know who's running these operations. I've got it all figured out. Verse 9, the head of Ephraim is Samaria. The head of Samaria is the son of Remaliah. And now the last line of 9 is kind of a play on words. And it's something like, if you will not believe, you surely shall not last. If you won't trust me, if you won't hold fast to me, then you're not going to be able to hold on to anything. If you won't believe me, if you won't lean on me, then you're going to be cut down. That's the warning that Isaiah is giving to Ahaz, the king of Judah, saying, essentially, the only thing you have to do is trust me. Don't be afraid. Don't do something stupid. Just trust me. So, in verse 10, the Lord spoke again to Ahaz, saying, ask a sign. A sign is in a testing miracle. A sign is something amazing that happens. So think of Hezekiah later on in Isaiah, and Isaiah says, the Lord is going to rescue you from your illness. You're not going to die. What sign would you like? And he says, make the shadow on the steps go back 3 steps. And Isaiah says, okay, there you go. Well, that's what this is. Ask a sign. Name something, some miraculous event that you would like to see to prove that God has actually said this. It's verification, it's certification. This is for real. Ask a sign for yourself from the Lord your God. Notice the wording there. The Lord your God, make it deep as Sheol or high as heaven. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, nor will I test the Lord. Now that almost sounds pious. It almost sounds kind of holy. No, I don't need a sign. I'm not going to test God. But wait a minute. God had just said, name a sign. And now when you look down at the next verse 12. Listen now, O house of David, is it too slight a thing for you to try the patience of men, that you will try the patience of my God? The verse before was your God. Now Isaiah says, my God. What is Isaiah saying? He's saying, you are being stubborn, obstinate, and you are not hearing me. You're not hearing the Lord. You're not paying attention, and you're not trusting God. A minute ago he said, your God. Now he says, my God. There are different ways to test God, and this is one of them. When God says, I want you to name a miraculous sign, and Ahaz says, no, I won't do that. Well, another name for that is disobedience. This is disobedience. And so God says, all right, I'm going to give you a sign. Here it is, verse 14. Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, a virgin will be with child and bear a son, and she will call his name Emmanuel. Now this is challenging because we're not clear who is the virgin, who is the baby. We're very clear when we get to the New Testament, aren't we? That is the ultimate fulfillment. The ultimate answer to this riddle is Jesus Christ, and his mother's name is Mary. So we're very, very clear on that. But here it does look like probably the virgin is Isaiah's wife. Now why is she called a virgin? Not clear. But the boy is Emmanuel, and he would be the second child. And then the third child, I already showed you in chapter 8, that Mahalal, whatever it is, Baz, yeah, Baz, right? Speedy, they call him. So, but this is an indicator. This event is going to occur. There's going to be a baby boy born, and his name is going to be Emmanuel, and he is going to be eating, it says, verse 15, curds and honey. Curds and honey, it sounds kind of luxurious. It's actually the diet of poor people, because more well-to-do people would have grain and maybe some fish and some meat and some vegetables, but curds is like sour cream, and honey is honey, and you stir it together, and that's what you eat. He'll be eating that at the time he knows enough to refuse evil and choose good. In other words, when he's old enough to recognize right from wrong, whatever age, 2, 3, 4 years old, at that point, you will know that I, the Lord, have decreed this. And furthermore, verse 16, the land whose 2 kings you dread will be forsaken. So the northern kingdom, Israel, is going to be gone in about 13 years. And the kingdom of Aram is going to be wiped out by a rising world power called Assyria. Now, you would think with this that Ahaz would get it squared away in his mind and heart what he needs to do. What he needs to do is trust God. What was his response to all of this? His response was to try to form a coalition with Assyria and build an alliance with this pagan nation to come and relieve the pressure on him by sending an army to oppress Israel and Aram. In other words, he didn't trust God. He came up with his own solution, and it backfired. The rest of the chapter, 17 to the end, is Isaiah telling Ahaz that there's going to be judgment coming. There's going to be hardship and heartache. The places that were luxuriously cultivated with vines and trees and so on are going to turn back to wilderness, briars and thorns, and places where you'd have a vineyard with 1,000 very expensive vines because they produce the finest grapes. It's all going to be briars and thorns because the people of God won't turn to God, and Ahaz won't trust the Lord. So, a reminder that God can and does get involved. He does step into human affairs, and he will do whatever he wants to do. Our job is to trust God. Our job is to believe the Lord and not turn to human devices. Questions or comments?
So, the word translated virgin can also just mean.
So there's two words in Hebrew that could be translated virgin, and I believe that this one is a word that means a young girl, a maiden of marriageable age and good reputation. So, yes. Thank you. Other comments, questions? Take your prayer bulletins, please.